Culture Yearbook. On this show, we pick pieces of pop culture that were important to us in a given year. We then discuss our memories and dig into those movies, albums, shows, and more. I'm Brad.
I'm Pete.
And I'm Giff.
All right. And what are we going to do tonight, Pete?
Whatever I feel like, God.
Oh, good job. We got Napoleon Dynamite. Classic movie. Classic comedy. Do you want to go first and say how you picked it, Pete, or should we go before you?
I can just do a little setup here on why I picked it and whatnot.
Please do.
Napoleon Dynamite, the first time I had ever seen it, I'd seen it a couple of times since then, but the first time I remember just being sick and I had to stay home from work and I watched it by myself. And it's one that I in retrospect, I wish that we had watched this one with a group of friends, and I just was like, I just remember being in tears, laughing so hard, sitting there on the couch, sick with about 4 blankets over me, but still laughing at nearly every scene. And it did the same thing to me when I watched it again this time around. I do have a synopsis that I will go into, but first, I do want to hear from you guys first on your memories of seeing it for the first time, etc.
Well, as usual, I don't remember the first time that I saw this movie. But as far as my impressions of it, it's just so fun. There's so many great lines, so many great characters. And it's uncomfortable how dorky he really is. Like, him and Kip are just beyond the pale when it comes to how nerdy they are and how uncomfortable you are watching them.
Don't forget Pedro.
Well, Pedro's got some game because he's got some skills, I'll say.
That's a different kind of nerd, though. There's nerds that are willing to do anything and have no shame or fear, and he fits that quality.
That's for sure. So Pedro is he's a step above what I think Kip and Napoleon are. But it's a great show. Again, they hit on a lot of themes, universal themes, and it's just a lot of fun. Great movie and a lot of laughs, and loved watching it back for this podcast.
Yeah, so I do remember watching this for the first time. I remember hearing about it from a few people. I'm not really sure who, but I was always confused because it just looked weird, and the stuff they said was like, really? You didn't know what this movie, and when you first watch it, when you first put it in, especially the first probably 10 minutes or so, it's like, what the fuck? So this movie came out on DVD on December 21st of 2004. And I know I was excited to watch it because I remember watching it. I probably got the Netflix disc immediately. I don't think, unless somebody bought it and gave it to us. My wife and I watched it on New Year's Day of 2005. I just remember middle of the day, we were tired. We were still young, so we'd probably been out and done something at least that night. But we watched it in the middle of the day, and it was funny and it was weird, and you didn't really know what you were watching, but you knew you liked it. You knew that it was a good time. And as the movie goes on, it makes more sense as it goes. Like at the end, it's like, okay, that you still have some questions, but not like the first, 10 to 15 minutes. And so the first time I watched it, I liked it, but definitely it's one that grew more and more after that. Mm-hmm. So we watched it a lot of times. And then, this is one of those where I'm watching this and I'm writing down almost every single line because, and we talk about these lines and we use these lines all the time. And it's nonstop. I don't think this movie came up in our quotable movies when we did our draft.
You know what?
On that.
Probably didn't.
It sure as hell should have. Mm-hmm. That was an oversight there. So that's I loved it, and I'm really glad you picked it. I was really happy to watch it again.
When you think of this movie, you don't think of it having any kind of a plot line whatsoever, right? It's not a deep plot for sure, but when you do watch it again a couple of times, it is a little bit deeper than you might think.
It's all about friendship with the climax.
Yes, exactly.
That's what it leads to,
including the opening song, and that's how it sets up. With
the white stripes.
Sort of beautiful opening with the I can tell that we are going to be friends song, and then with the food choices.
All the lunches
during the opening
plates.
credits was awesome.
the library books. There's an ID card, chapstick. Some of those foreshadowing things in the movie, but all those just little everyday school things spelling out the cast and the crew. It's a great, very unique beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyday school things and also food and accessories that a nerd like that might have back in those days. Like just trying to get by kind of on his own. But I'm not even talking about the chapstick. Gifford's holding up the chapstick to the camera.
That's always in my pocket.
The corn dogs and the plate of nachos and
you brought up
stuff.
You said there a nerd would have back, by the way. Back in those days. And that's what's so interesting about this movie. It's like it's not set in the past. It's set in the present.
What time is this set? Because the music is like 80s, but then there's
it feels like an 80s movie. It looks a lot like an 80s movie. I think because it's in this, podunk area, like where we grew up. So not putting that down, but like this place just lost in time, and the way they dress and the way they talk and the music, there's a lot of 80s music. But there are plenty of things in it to show you this is a present day. This is a 2004 setting. I can't remember exactly what those things are. Well, they're on the internet for one thing.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
internet is new still-ish, in this area. So,
but when I say back in those days, I'm not necessarily meaning a specific year or anything. I am thinking of a period of your life when you're a teenager and just you don't know how to get by on your own. And so to eat, you're making corn dogs, you're making nachos, you're doing stuff like that, especially when you're talking about a guy like Napoleon who can't do anything right. And he's just barely surviving. Quesadilla. Yeah, exactly. So,
the llama eats better than
that's right.
Napoleon does for sure. Yeah.
Let me just run through my synopsis real quick, and then we'll continue to talk about some of the specific scenes, if you don't mind.
Is it a llama or an alpaca? Tina.
Might be an alpaca.
I think Tina might be an alpaca.
Yeah, you might be right. All right. Well, we'll have
Take it away, Pete.
Unpack that during the discussion.
Napoleon Dynamite is a unique comedy that explores the life of Napoleon Dynamite, a socially awkward teenager living in the small town of Preston, Idaho. He shares his home with his grandmother and his older brother Kip, who spends his time in internet chat rooms and training to be a cage fighter. I can't even say that without laughing. Their lives take a turn when their grandmother has an ATV accident and their Uncle Rico, a former athlete living in a camper/van, comes to watch over them. Napoleon, despite his awkwardness, does manage to befriend Pedro, a new student from Juarez, Mexico. Pedro is equally awkward, and somehow the pair manages to hit it off, despite each only being able to spit out about one word at a time. Throughout the movie, we get to know Napoleon as he spends his time doodling mythical creatures, feeding the llama, Tina, and dealing with various bullies at school. He also has to deal with a smooth-talking Uncle Rico as he tries to take advantage of others throughout the town through sales tactics. Eventually, Pedro decides to run for class president. Napoleon, being a loyal friend, supports Pedro in his campaign, adding a political twist to the high school drama. The movie concludes with a heartwarming scene where Napoleon plays a game of tetherball with Deb, symbolizing a possible budding romance. Napoleon Dynamite is not just a comedy. It's a story about friendship, loyalty, and finding one's place in the world. It's a testament to the fact that even the most ordinary lives can be extraordinary within the framework of those closest to you. So there it is.
Well done.
Thank you.
And as you say his name too, it's like his last name is Dynamite. Like what is that?
Is that real though? What's
Yes.
Well, that's what he says.
That's what he says. My name is Napoleon Dynamite. Yeah,
at school.
But is that a nickname that he made for himself? Just because it sounds awesome?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think that is just given name.
The whole thing is just weird.
Well, and can we start first off just with the visual? Okay.
his portrayal of this awkward geek is perfection.
Oh, absolutely.
Because of what, Give?
The moon boots, first of all.
That's right at the bottom.
I mean, the moon boots I'm assuming this is summer, right? Like, it's got to be hot, so those moon boots are just awesome. Super, super tight, like, pants that, and then just odd graphic t-shirts, the glasses, and then the hair, just it's just a whole lot to take
I can
in.
add on to that yet. The breathing is a big one. Think of all the, the nerds you knew and quirks like that. The half closed eyes squinting constantly. And you brought up his artistic, but like the weird stuff he's drawing. I mean, that's just, you can just imagine kids like that from your elementary all the time or older, but.
Oh, and the very first
I was going to
scene.
bring this up too earlier. We didn't bring this up for the top quotable movies. This also could have come up for when we talked about award-winning comedic performances. There's every performance in this movie is perfect. Give him an Oscar. Hand him out.
Just hand those bad boys out.
Well, and how in the opening scene, Napoleon's got to be a senior? Is he a senior in this?
He could be a junior or senior.
He's got to be upperclassman at this point,
But then
No
he gets on the bus at the opening scene. Basically, he gets on the bus, and then there's probably a freshman or maybe even younger kid is just innocently says, "So, what are you doing today, Napoleon?"
Whatever I feel
like.
Yeah.
He just immediately does not want anything to do. And I can visualize, like you said, I can remember people from our high school that were exactly like that. Yeah. Like when I was in 5th grade, and some of these seniors were just total nerds back then.
Well, and I think, to me, when the kid asks him, like, he likes the attention, but he has to play it off as he's just annoyed.
So he throws the little figure out the window, which just, what the hell is he doing? I think he does something like that probably every day. And so the kid is like, he does like the attention. The kid's like, what are you going to do today, Napoleon? But, then he doesn't want to play along. It's his way of probably trying to act too cool.
Right, exactly. Yep.
I just, all these scenes at the beginning, they're like 20 seconds long, and they're so weird. And you've got the thing about him talking about Nessie in class. Mm-hmm. You got the hunting wolverines and the bus scene, and then the chapstick. And all this happens within like the first minutes of the movie. And you're watching this the first time, like, what in the hell is going on here?
Well, and importantly, because this comes up later, or one of the scenes early on is he's playing tetherball by himself and just cannot figure it out. He cannot get it.
It's hard to play by yourself.
Well, yeah, but it's like even all he has to do is hit the ball, and it's like the game itself is beating him, right? Because it's always going over his head, and he cannot. He's flailing at it, and.
But in these scenes, we also get to meet Kip through that. So when he calls home, but my lips hurt real bad, and then just the whole back and forth with Kip is great because Kip is the most. How would you describe Kip? The most milquetoast. Just pathetic excuse for somewhat of an adult. I mean, way worse than Napoleon. This guy is like useless in all ways.
Correct.
And from what I looked up, he's 32 years old. Like Kip is 32.
Like in the movie, he's supposed to be 32.
Yeah,
I think in the movie
an age gap then too.
Supposed to be 20. For some reason, I thought 24 came to mind.
Okay, maybe
he was. But still, he's 24 and he sits at home all day and is on the internet. And that's the other thing. Like, you've got Uncle Rico comes into this equation, and you really wonder, like, okay, what does Uncle Rico do to make money? But he has, as misplaced as it is, Uncle Rico has drive. He does. He's got a plan. As bad as it is, he's got something cooking.
Well,
how does
Kip put him in the state championship game?
Right, everything would have been different. But how does Kip get by? I mean, Grandma must just provide everything. For these two, because Kip is just useless in life.
And that's why it's funny too, because Rico is such a jerk, but like, you understand, I mean, he's such an idiot, but you understand he coming and seeing these two kids and he's like, Jesus, what's wrong with you two?
He does get Kip out of his shell. And he still does.
He gets Kip to try at least.
LaFonda gets Kip out of his shell. I mean, that's another great part.
But I mean,
of this
before
movie.
that, he's out trying to sell the Tupperware, and he's in on the schemes, and he thinks he's a big shot with
Right.
Rico.
Oh, and the part where he backs over the Tupperware and it explodes, and then he just
good.
like, dang it, and then just drives off real fast. Just the embarrassment, he can't handle it, so he just got to flee the scene. Yeah, Kip is really something.
Pedro's great too, and I love how it's actual Pedro according to the
Yes.
principal. But we meet him right away, and he's just like, "Who's this guy?" And then, I mean, my favorite line here is, "You ever take it off any sweet jumps?" Because he's got such a cool bike, and that whole scene. So Pedro gets over the jump, pretty good, but then the way Napoleon just falls and hits his groin. Ow! That's that little gag. Gifford, you like talking about gags? That's the gag of the movie.
It's so
well, first
good.
of all, when Pedro makes his jump, he like just barely makes it, and he goes, "You got like 3 feet of air that time."
I don't know. I think it's just hilarious. Pedro's line of when, he asks if he has a bike, and Pedro's line of, "It's a sledgehammer." Like, there's no like enthusiasm behind it necessarily.
Pedro is the least enthusiastic person in the world.
Yeah,
that's why they're both perfect for each other as friends. It's because neither one of them shows any emotion.
Well,
at
Napoleon does, because he gets disgusted.
Oh, like
Napoleon
how was school today, Napoleon?
Well, that's true. That's
the
true.
worst day of my life. What do you think?
Yeah. Whereas Pedro is just, I mean, he's barely awake. I mean, for God's sake.
It's true, but he's also kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like, because he'll talk to the girls and he'll try, and then he's got these cousins, that are like, you're Pedro's cousins with the sweet hookups.
Yeah.
Well,
like, there's a backstory there where Pedro has got something going on, but he just plays it so cool all the time.
Well, that's why I'm saying, like, Pedro is definitely a step up.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He's got confidence.
Yep. Whether it's misplaced or not, but he's just, like you say, he's just so cool, almost comatose. He's so cool, but he's got a little bit of a little something.
He went for Summer. He tried to ask Summer out, even though she said no. At least he asked her, which Napoleon would never do.
And he runs for president too. I mean, this guy, he's got drive.
Cool. What I love is when he asks out Summer, and he has this long run all the way across the road up to her front door. Yes. He sets the cake down, rings the doorbell, and then he's got that long
Well, and I love, like, how long did it take her to get to the door that he got all the way, like a half a mile away?
Like the worst case of ding dong ditch ever. Like, you got to disappear quicker if you're going to try to be that, be a surprise.
Speaking of drive, Napoleon doesn't have much either, because when Grandma asks him to go feed Tina, see if she wants any of this, and he just goes, just that breathing, and every reaction is so funny. Eat the food.
Oh my God!
Come get dinner. Hey, you fat Tina, you fat lard, come get some dinner. That's what the line was.
But then, so speaking of ding dongs, this is where we meet Deb too. Are we up to Deb now?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Did anybody else think that Deb, this actress, and her look would have worked out perfectly as an Audrey in the Vacation movies?
She does look like an Audrey.
Yeah. Doesn't she? Like, especially
that's another
Vacation Audrey.
This is another sign of feeling like it's an 80s movie, because she wears a side ponytail the whole time.
And the stirrup pants.
Yeah. The fashions are so out there.
80s. Yeah.
But she comes to the door, and there's so many good things here. Would you like to look like this? and this is a girl. And then what did she ask him about his haircut? And he says, I get my hair cut at the Cut and Corral.
Yeah.
But the best line of the whole thing is where she says she's trying to save up to go to college. And from nowhere, we hear Kip, your mom goes to college.
And they show him, and he
and he laughs
to himself.
Like, he's so proud.
I slammed her.
Oh my God.
Of course, being as awkward as she is, she just takes, she can't handle that comment, and she just takes off running and leaves all her little trinkets behind for Napoleon to bring to school.
That opens the door for Napoleon, just like Costanza leaving something behind all the time.
Costanza.
From a number of because he has all those trinkets now, and it opened up the door with Deb as a possible love interest as much as you could get. And yeah.
Well, and I wanted to bring up another character, small character in this movie, and that's Rex.
Well, that's where I'm up to here. We meet Rex Kwon Do next. And this is where you see that Kip is. This is where Kip is at his even most pathetic.
Yes. But I just love Rex's commercial. This is what piques Kip's interest in going to train with this guy as a cage fighter. Rex tells the people watching the commercial that you could have the strength of a grizzly, reflexes of a puma, and the wisdom of a man.
I miss that.
I mean, it's such toxic man. Masculinity. It's just so good. I had to rewind it because I'm like, did he just say man? The wisdom of a man. Oh, I miss that every single time I watched it. That's the other great thing about this. We watch these movies, over again, and you pick up something new each time.
Well, and I'm trying to look for my notes here. Did one of you write it down? So Rex is one of the few people that you actually recognize, and I'm losing it here. Who is he? What's he in?
He's in Office Space. He's the
yes,
Peterman.
Diedrich Bader, and he's Peterman. Yeah. And you barely recognize him here from both. And thank you for filling in that blank because I can't find it on my notes.
Yeah, he was the next door neighbor.
It'd be really nice if you could drag me into town, Napoleon.
Oh, that was so great too. Like he's got his rollerblades on, and Napoleon's towing him in, and they go in and they sit in class, and Rex asks for a volunteer, and of course Kip, head down.
Yeah,
he won't do eye contact, but raises his hand because he's going for it, and then he goes up and tries to fight Rex in front of the class, and Rex's moves are Kip's moves are awful too.
Well, Kip doesn't even have a move. It's like he's made of jelly in his arms. Oh, I love it. Yeah, he gets down and tries to do the sweeping kick, and it's
right, like sweep the leg.
And Rex just like slaps him on the head. It's not like a big punch. And he says, "Grab my arm." No, the other arm. And Kip like changes his arm that he's grabbing him with, not grabbing the other arm of Rex. I mean, he's so awkward, and it's so awful.
And then, speaking of scenes that are out of nowhere, my next two things here are, first of all, the bus comes again. And behind the bus, you've got the neighbor he just shoots this cow right in the face. We don't know what's going on there. Blank with his shotgun. And the kids all scream. But then they go into school, and you have the Happy Hands Club, which I guess kind of comes back later. But it's just, for right now, it's just a scene of these people doing the rows and the guy in front laughing. And he is just the worst actor of all time. Yes. The cool guy. Mm-hmm. But that's all it is. And it's like, what was that scene for?
And he's the only dude
down too. He was a terrible actor, but it worked for his role.
Yeah,
and it was similar to Better Off Dead. How the cool guy in Better Off Dead, how like some of his
I thought you were going to say
it's campy.
He reminds me of the guy in The Room who comes in and I can't think of his name. I'm sorry. They come in just for a little bit, and that's where they say me underwears. And you can tell
yeah. Okay.
This guy's in on the joke. He knows it's a terrible movie. Thank you. There it is. That's what this kind of is like, only this guy's really bad.
Yeah, as a person, it reminds me of that guy. I was just thinking of the concept of the terrible actor playing the cool guy, but it fits with the role. And that's where I was comparing it to Better Off Dead.
So with the Happy Hands thing, again, Napoleon is the only guy in this group. So that was one question. I was like, he had the wherewithal to join a group, which is a bit strange for him, in my opinion.
And desire,
right? Yeah, it shows something. Like,
well, and his love of art, and I mean, there's things that he has interest. He doesn't have any skills. But he has interests.
Well, he's pretty good with a bow staff, is what he tells I think Pedro the first time he meets him. But he does have interests, but it's usually in the loner capacity.
Yeah,
like he does his drawing by himself, and
you don't know why he's part of this group.
No, you have no clue. The next thing I have in my notes is tot pocket.
Yeah, I have tots in the pocket. You're gonna eat in your tots.
He puts him. Well, I think it's at the same lunch, right, where he works up the courage to go ask Deb, or to go use his pickup line, which was, I see you're drinking 1% milk. Is that because you think you're fat? And then there's this awkward
totally drink
pause.
whole if you want to.
Talk about what do they call that? Negging. Like, you kind of throw a negative comment at somebody to try to get them turned on. But it's the nicest backhanded, awkward.
And again, he's
compliment.
trying.
Yep.
It's a pickup line, and
Sure.
it's not even a bad one, really. It's whatever.
Well,
Depending on the
is
audience.
the pause. Anytime you incorporate the concept of her being fat, whether
he
true
said,
or
because
not.
you're not.
Yeah,
Right,
but
there was
that
the
was a
pause.
long, awkward pause before he even said
I know,
that.
she doesn't know how to react.
No.
And then
Oh.
Uncle Rico shows up, and
Yes.
one of my favorite lines is the way he delivers. Grandma broke her coccyx.
She was with her new boyfriend. She was on a date.
There's gonna be some changes around here.
Oh, Grandma's a good time gal. I mean, she's out there just putting the pedal to the metal in the dunes, on the 4-wheeler.
And then
The first shot of him, we don't even know who he is really, if you hadn't seen a movie, right? But it's just this guy out in the middle of the desert throwing passes with a video camera pointed at him.
with bad form.
Right, with
horrible
terrible form. And you
Yep.
don't know who this guy is. And
Recorded himself throwing a football with the old camcorder, again from the 80s. That's not a new camcorder by any means. Yeah, he is just amazing, and he's got so many great lines. Back in '82, I could throw a pigskin a quarter mile.
Yeah, well, the best is Kip goes, "Are you serious?"
Right. And then they're sitting on the front step, and they're both eating a steak. I don't know how many steaks they go through in this movie, but Kip goes, "Are you serious?" And he sees Napoleon
Oh yeah.
coming, and he picks up Kip's steak and whips it weak wristed and beans Napoleon right in the face.
And then Kip
when
goes,
he's riding a bike.
"That's what I'm talking about."
Right. He just threw your steak.
But
Come on.
so the jumping of the bike is a great gag. This is actually maybe even funnier when he gets
Yes.
knocked off the bike with the steak, and then Kip responds. But before he even does all that, he makes him watch that video. And Kip is like, Kip must really look up to Uncle Rico, because right
He
away
does.
he's
He
pissing
absolutely
on him.
does.
But I just love this line when he says, "This is pretty much the worst video ever made." And it's a great answer. Napoleon, like anybody could ever know that.
Right.
Because it's true.
Yes.
You couldn't.
Well, and it doesn't take much. You don't have to be much of a man for Kip to look up to you, because he is the lowest rung of the ladder. I mean, he's just such a pile. And then, of course, another great Uncle Rico line. How much you want to bet I could throw a football over those mountains?
Oh, yeah. Maybe the most famous line in the movie in some ways.
Yeah, for sure.
They also incorporate time travel at this point because he wants to go back to high school and fix these wrongs that he had. And Kip is like all over it. And that's another great gag, though, when we get to that. I mean,
Could
But
I have put
And
this
again, it's
movie
Napoleon.
in
Every
as
time it's
time
Napoleon.
travel movies when we did that?
No.
Time
no.
jump, time travel movies.
This movie could have come up so many times in our previous drafts.
Right?
So they're gonna go out and they're gonna sell stuff together, and Rico's like, "Yeah, we got to look legit. We're trying to sell something." And the first thing Kip says, "How about some gold bracelets?"
Right. They'll be the bracelet buddies. That's what.
Oh
they'll
my
call us.
god!
Well, and isn't this when they're at the bowling alley when they're starting to talk about this? And did you notice that Kip bowls with the bumpers up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and Napoleon's there, but they're like trying to be secretive, like they're onto this giant scheme, and they we should go somewhere more private because they can't let him hear about it.
Right, because Napoleon doesn't give two shits about what these guys are hatching.
No.
Like he cares not one bit.
But if you buy their 32-piece set, you get a free sailboat, and that woman, I want that to her husband.
And then how
See if you can get that in a nice tear.
how the husband just feels so defeated when he can't tear the
I
bowl.
know, which nobody could do.
No, right. And his wife's like looking at him like he's the biggest pussy in the world. Oh my God. Give me a break.
But now we're kind of back and forth. They got that, but now Napoleon's going to work. What is he trying to get money for here? There was a reason.
I think because they were making so much money selling the.
Oh yeah, they kind of guilted him into trying to find a job.
So he's got
the dude that shoots the cow, and they're gonna go work with eggs and chickens. And do the chickens have large talons?
Oh, you took my line.
Boy, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Well, what is he? And then the lunch they get is literally the worst lunch in the history.
It's all eggs. It's all egg based.
What was that? Yeah, it was like.
Well, it's egg salad
he just
sandwich.
cracked eggs into a thing and stirred it up, and you're supposed to drink it, and then probably some hard-boiled eggs too.
Hard-boiled eggs, and then you drink the eggs, and then egg salad sandwich. Oh my God! And then when he finally, he goes, "Oh, forgot my checkbook. I have to pay you guys in change.
Hope you don't mind paying change."
And then,
it's like
and then the famous line, he counts it up, $6. That's like $1 an hour.
That might be the most famous.
That little day did not work out for Napoleon. That was too bad.
Oh my God! Well, I got a note here too where they're talking about him and Pedro are talking about what it takes to get girls and
skills.
He needs good skills, and what are good skills? Nunchucks,
like bow hunting skills,
and
skills.
computer hacking. Those are the three things that you need to have skills in order to get women. Because Pedro is trying to tell him, like, hey, you got skills, like Pedro baked a cake to ask out Summer.
Built her a cake.
Built her a cake. That's right. So,
but no, his skill of drawing actually did kind of get the attention of Deb. Like she was looking at it and asked questions. I mean, but he doesn't understand that that's a skill.
Right. So he draws this picture of what was the girl's name that he drew up. No.
Summer's friend.
Yeah, Summer's friend. And of course, this mom. Like, he stops by this girl's place to drop the picture off. And, of course, Uncle Rico is there. And Uncle Rico is hammering ass on these sales.
Well, he's trying to.
Right. But this mom, like, she just, like, guilts her poor daughter into going out with this boy.
She thinks he's special.
But that's what the thing is. Guilts her into taking him.
You're going to go to the dance with that boy.
Right. And I mean,
she's just watching over her every move, like making sure that she is.
But it is funny because he does have, like, he can draw the liger and he can draw, but the picture of the woman is hideous. Yeah. And he thinks it's probably the best picture he's ever done. It took him 3 hours to finish the shading on her upper lip.
Yes. And he goes out, with all his egg money now. He went out and bought a sweet women's suit to wear to the dance, and he looks so good.
That suit's awesome.
Well, and they do the slow-mo walk, which is just absolutely great when you see him in the suit for the first time. And then, of course, he has to go with Uncle Rico on a sales call. So he has to run back to town. He gets picked up by Pedro's cousins.
Well, because Uncle Rico is trying to hammer ass and leaves him there.
You know damn well that's what he's doing.
But, yeah, the cousins just happen. We haven't met them. We don't know anything about them. But he's like, you're his cousins with the sweet hookups?
Yeah.
So they help save the day.
Right. And he shows up in the lowrider.
Gets in the car, picks her up, and then they're not even sitting together.
Because he's a gentleman. He gives her the front seat.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but he's in the back. It's weird.
It is,
but he's not driving.
They should both have the back.
Oh, my God.
So the time machine, before we get to anything else here, they you put these little crystals in. And why is Napoleon the one doing it? Because he doesn't. It's the other two guys that want to do it.
Well, because Kip already saw what happened to Uncle Rico, so Kip's wanting Napoleon to do it. So he's.
But when they turn that thing on, and this is Oscar worthy here. The reaction to the pain he's in is just hilarious. And then doesn't Kip smile again too?
Yes, he does, because then Uncle Rico comes, because Napoleon says that sucked. and Uncle Rico comes out of the bedroom with like peas on his nuts.
Like icing his
He's like,
nuts. Going, I could have told you that.
I could have told you that. So you knew Kip knew what was going to happen, and that's just a great older brother playing a prank on the younger brother.
And that's actually because Kip, you wouldn't think he's even funny enough to do that. That actually is a pretty good play there.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
That's a good joke too, no? I love we do see more skills of Napoleon too, though. He judges milk at the county fair or something.
Yeah, he's an
and
FFA.
he can point out the milk
Like a
milk
4-H
defects.
Yep.
This one has bleach in it. This cow got into an onion patch. Yes. It's so great.
Well, and then we also have the dance that they go to.
Back at the,
And
Before
again,
that,
this is,
though, we meet LaFonda.
oh, I had LaFonda after the dance.
I thought
Really?
it was after also.
Okay,
Yeah,
then I
it
guess
is.
I didn't very much know. Sorry. Carry on.
So this is
Well,
where I'm
here's
confused
where
by
you
the
mixed
timeline.
up. We actually the dance actually happened earlier than the time machine, and he meets LaFonda right after the time machine. Is how I had it. So
when
back to the
LaFonda-
dance.
Oh, go ahead.
So on the dance, this is where I was confused again with what time frame does this movie take place? Because they walk into the dance and Forever Young is playing, which came out in 1984, and Deb has crimped hair.
Yep. No, the look is.
I mean, it's so hard to figure out exactly what time frame this is all taking place.
I never really. I feel like they're just trying to show that this town is like, stuck
the town
in.
is 10 years behind. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm not really sure, why, but that's got to be the reason.
So can we jump ahead to, because this is even before LaFonda, they decide that Pedro is going to run for class president.
Yes.
Pedro sees the sign at the dance when he goes out to get a drink at the drinking fountain. So Napoleon explains to him why he should run because of Pedro's sweet skills. He's got a sweet bike. He's hooking up with chicks, and he's the only guy with a mustache. So I mean, honestly, those are pretty good skills to have for.
Plus, he has the backing of the town tough guys that everybody's probably scared of if they meet him.
Well, and I mean, I know that's
yep.
why I voted for Pete for class president, because he had a sweet bike and hooking up with chicks, and he had a sweet mustache. So.
Yep, I'll check all the boxes right there. This is an important moment in the movie, though, because this is where you really see the friendship come through, because Napoleon is actually being supportive of him and encouraging him to run, and so
he'll do whatever it takes.
Yep. And before that, at the dance, when Napoleon's date finally runs off and hangs out with her friends, what does Pedro offer Napoleon to make him feel better? You can dance with Deb if you want to. I'll let you dance a few dances with Deb. Like she's a piece of meat, like, or his property.
When LaFonda shows up, did you expect it to go well?
I didn't know I figured this was the first catfishing ever in movie history. Like he's talking to this woman online in all his chat rooms.
But then when you see what she looks like, you would expect that she would run away.
I thought it was like a prostitution thing, like she
and
was
it's so
going to take
great
his money or something. And
they truly did connect over the internet, and they really do. It's awesome. I think it's so funny that they actually have a nice little fling together there.
Well, and she's throwing him around behind closed doors. I mean, she is manhandling his 96-pound frame.
So Pedro does have a little hiccup in his campaign because he has a Summer Wheatley pinata, which I don't know how they do things down in Juarez.
Right. Yeah, that was pretty good.
And then, Napoleon still is interested in Deb, but he screwed up. And so she calls to tell him off, but she's from a payphone out in the middle of nowhere too. Why is she at a payphone? What's the point of that?
Yeah, to show how out
Just
of
another
time
weird thing.
this town is. Well, and the reason she's mad at him is because Uncle Rico goes to the photo studio to get some headshots done for, I don't know, his business cards or something. And now his new gambit is selling herbal supplements to grow breast size. And he gives those to her and says, hey, Napoleon said you'd like to have these, so he throws Napoleon under the bus again, gets him in trouble. Napoleon doesn't think this way.
He doesn't even know what she's talking about.
Right. So she calls him and,
to explain himself.
Yeah. Choose him out, as she should, if that's what he said. But I mean, it just shows how greasy Uncle Rico.
But then it leads to a great line, because Napoleon gets mad and he goes and yells at him, "You've been ruining everybody's lives and eating all our steak." And wants him out of there.
So we have the scene at the thrift store. Do we want to go through the thrift store quick?
Go ahead. I was just to a point where I realized that this is a present day movie, but maybe you're before that.
Yeah, I'm a little before that. So he goes to the thrift store. He's checking stuff out, and this is where he finds Daquan's dance grooves.
Oh yes.
And this is, a big, part of the finale of the movie. This is the beginning of it. So I just love that he's just going through everything, looking at all the crap at this thrift store. And this is what he lands on, is something that he needs to buy and really get into. And then he comes home and he's, working on his, his moves. You don't really know what's going on. You just kind of see his door closed and the music playing.
Did that remind you of Can't Buy Me Love?
I don't know that
when
movie
when he's learning the African Indian ritual in his room.
Yeah,
thinking he's gonna. And
I remember that now.
It's the same basic, and he thinks it's going to take the dance by storm, which it does. This is a real dance that Napoleon's doing, but just that whole solo guy behind the door dancing, trying to be, come up with something that totally matched Can't Buy Me Love.
Well, and this is where we see LaFonda, and she gives him this demo tape because he likes dancing, and she's a really nice, genuine person, you see.
Yeah, and now she has a plot point in the movie too, because she shows up and gives him the music that he's going to use later.
Correct. And that's when we also see the makeover of Kip, which is just with the do-rag and his huge gun sticking out of his tank top. I mean,
and the attitude.
Right, the attitude, and he's so pasty white. I mean, it's just, I love that they put him in black to really offset how white and pale his skin is. It's so great. And he doesn't have his glasses on anymore. Yeah. And, did we mention he has braces too? I mean, he is so beyond just so dorky.
Are we to the skits now at the president election? Because this is where, so Summer does a skit with the Happy Hands Club. But it's the Larger Than Life by the Backstreet Boys, right? Backstreet Boys. So then you're watching it, like, okay, that's actually a newer song at this time.
Yep.
And then his song too, when he dances, but that's Jamiroquai.
Right.
So there is current music, and they are actually, it's not just background either, like score music. It's incorporated into the town.
Yep.
So
what I love,
how dumb is it that they have a skit that they have to do after their presidential speech, that they're required to do it? And he had no idea until after he gave the speech.
Pete, I think if there were skits after class president speeches, you would have won in a landslide.
I was going to say
landslide.
I did win in a landslide. What are you talking about?
Oh, okay. All right.
But Pedro's a little nervous too, and even before the dancing and everything, Napoleon goes, "Pedro, just listen to your heart. That's what I do."
Well, and this is where you see, the friendship really galvanize, because Pedro goes out there and he's mortified. Summer in her speech, made some comment about, do we all want to be eating chimichangas, for lunch every day? So that's a low shot.
And a little racist.
So he goes out there and doesn't know what to say. And he takes Napoleon's line of, "If you vote for me, all your dreams will come true."
Wow,
and he walks off. The wildest dreams come true.
He walks off and he just feels defeated. And Napoleon knows, like, hey, I got to stand up for my guy. There's a skit that needs to be done. I've got this tape, and I'm going to do what I need to do.
In my moon boots.
Yep.
And this is what makes, a hilarious movie. But this scene is what just brings the whole thing together. And this is what it's about. And it's just such a cool thing that he gets up and does this dance, and he's good at it, by the way.
Amazing
He
at it.
nails
Blown away by this performance that he puts forth.
And at first the crowd doesn't really know what to do, but they erupt as
Mhm.
well, and obviously give him credit for that. So it's just, the reaction is fantastic, and then it leads to this just wonderful ending. The whole rest of the movie is just great.
So a
But
couple
it's not
things about
revealed if he actually won, right? Like it's
No.
not actually
Yep,
revealed that he won.
there's a picnic in the park with Pedro's family where
And it's like a
okay.
cake. They built him a cake.
They built him a cake. There was kind of a celebration. So I
Got it,
took
okay.
that as that he won. Two
Yeah, I
things
think it's
from,
implied.
from the skits.
Yeah.
When the Happy Hands group is doing their little dance, the creepo boyfriend, like the look on his face is like, yeah, like he wants to just nail his girlfriend Summer because she looks so good up there. It's just great. And then when Napoleon is dancing, like that same guy is like trying to play it off as like, oh, this is stupid, like this isn't cool. And you can tell Summer's watching it going, oh shit, like this guy's nailing it. And at the end of it, like the music just shuts off and immediately he goes back to being Napoleon. Like he just stops and just runs off stage real quick.
Like an out-of-body experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's just that. So then the music comes in, and this little background music just plays for the rest of the movie, and it's just so heartwarming.
Mhm.
Kip and LaFonda are together, and it's going to work out. Grandma's back. Rico's gone, and his arm is in a sling. That makes the kids happy. But even Rico meets somebody. Everybody gets their happy moment. This woman on the bike rides by, right?
Now, where did that come from?
Well, it's just, why not?
Very
Rico deserves love too. Pedro winning and celebrating with his family, and then, as Pete brought up at the beginning, Deb joining Napoleon at the tetherball, and then just
Does
an
a
out of
beautiful
nowhere
rap.
great line to end it too. What does he tell her?
I
caught
won?
you a
I don't-
delicious bass.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
But then
it does wrap.
Then he's
It does.
playing tetherball, and he has it perfectly. He struggles a little bit at first, but then he's just like nailing it over her head every single time. But at least he's beating the game.
And they're smiling, and she's happy, and it's
Right.
just, it's such a
Right.
happy ending, and I just love it, and it just leaves you feeling so good.
I love when he
Right.
finally, like the ball finally like ends its rotation, and he does this little yes, like you can see him do a little fist bump off on the side there.
And
That
then,
was-
so that the background music is great, but then it plays "The Promise" by Win in Rome, another '80s song, which is one of the best '80s songs ever. And it is just, you can't stop watching the credits because you just want to keep listening to that song all the way till it's done.
Well, and the best part is there's more after the credits.
Wait, did I
So-
miss that?
Oh, God, you didn't-
Or
Oh
have
my
I seen
God,
it-
you guys didn't watch the?
Or have I seen it before, maybe, and
You
forgot?
had to have seen it.
No,
before.
I didn't.
What?
I didn't watch
my
through
God,
the,
what
through the
happens?
credits.
Okay, so one of
I
the other
think-
things before
I think I've
before the
seen it.
credits roll is that LaFonda's leaving town, but Kip gets on the bus too.
Yeah.
Like I thought he was taking her to go back to Detroit, but he's leaving the nest. Like he's heading out of town and he's going with his lady. No, so you watch the credits and then it goes to Kip and LaFonda's wedding out in the field, and the farmer that blew the face off the cow is the preacher. And so they're getting married, and Kip has this song Always and Forever that he's got playing on a tape deck like karaoke, but you can barely hear him sing. He's so quiet. And you've got the white, the Kip's family is all white on one side of the aisle, and then you've got LaFonda's family on the bride's side, and they're all just like, can't believe she's actually marrying this guy. And then out of nowhere, here comes Napoleon riding on the white steed through the field and up to the wedding. And he says, I just finished breaking this horse for you, and gives it to Kip and LaFonda, and they ride off into the sunset.
I'm going to have to go back and watch it. I'm pretty sure
please
I
do.
probably did see it, but it's so long ago that I barely remember it, and I'm going to have to go watch it. So,
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's so great. Him singing Always and Forever, it's so bad.
A lot of that sounds familiar, but
yeah.
a lot of it doesn't either. So I'm not.
You got to
sure.
go back and watch it. So
I will.
Pete, great choice. Absolutely love watching.
Well, you couldn't find a better way to spend an hour and a half.
No.
Absolutely not.
And it's an hour and a half, and it's not 3 hours long. They
Right.
knew how to do it.
Yep.
All right. So this being a very good, one of the best nerd movies of all time, I decided to pick for the draft tonight. We are going to be drafting the top 5 nerd movies. Could be nerd related. You can take that kind of any way you want. Could be about nerds. Could have nerds as a major part of the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you want. So
that's why I'm surprised you guys had such short lists, because I feel like you can stretch this pretty good.
Well, I think I might have a narrower view of it. That's why I don't have as many. So
okay. Well, it'll be fun to see what we all have.
Yes.
Yeah. Did we pick who's going second?
Yeah, we did before you got on. I'm second. Pete Gift's third.
All right. Okay. But I'm first, and I'm going to go with it. I'm going with Napoleon Dynamite on my first pick.
Okay, good. Then I get Revenge of the Nerds, the original classic, which I don't care how it's dated. It is a all-time classic, and I will laugh all the way through.
Okay. I'm going to go with 16 Candles.
Oh, that's my number 3. It's my top 3 right there.
There you go. You got good taste, Brad.
See, and that's a good one, because like it's not all nerds, but it revolves a lot around Anthony Michael Hall, and his name is the Geek.
Yep, the Geek in the credits and Farmer Ted.
Yeah, that works.
Once that fits, you realize a lot of other ones are going to fit too.
One of my favorite 80s movies, when I was that age, I watched this movie I don't know how many times. I'm going with Weird Science.
Yeah, I recently rewatched that, and it doesn't age great.
Really?
But that is high on my list for this.
Meaning
for this draft.
Age as in like it's not as good, or
I just didn't think it was quite as good.
A lot of like race.
Yeah, I never thought that one was that great. It was okay as a kid.
I don't know if it was race related. It was just, I don't know. Maybe it was a little too sexist because I don't know.
That's what
it got pretty weird at the end, and it was weird, Weird Science. But it's still great pick for this draft, Pete.
Yeah, for this category, I think it works.
All right, I'm gonna pick a one that came out just a year after Napoleon Dynamite, and that is the 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Good pick.
Because he's a nerd. Because virgins are nerds, right? That's what we're supposed to
believe.
That's what
we're told.
Wow.
That's what we've been told our lives.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next on my list, I am going to take Office Space.
Oh, yeah, see,
Peter
that's
Man!
one. I didn't know if that one come up or not. I had thought about it, and I took it off mine, but...
I don't know. Michael Bolton's pretty big nerd, and...
Yeah, no, it's...
Yeah.
It
all
definitely
three of those
fits.
guys. Yeah.
It works. I will take American Pie.
Ah.
think
See,
it
I
fits
left
the
that one off
category
my
for
list.
sure.
Yeah, I don't feel like any of them are nerds.
Yeah, they
Except for
the
the... what's
Shit
the
break?
kid with... No, the kid with the mom.
Stifler?
No, it's Stifler's mom, but the kid has... Yeah, the kid has sex with her. What's his name?
I don't know. Stifler calls him Shit Break. I can't remember his...
that is him. Okay, then.
Yeah. But, I mean, there are some nerds. I mean, Jim's a pretty big nerd.
That's true.
Oz-
And then so is
That's who I had in mind.
So is who?
Allison Hannigan.
Yep.
Yeah,
She's a huge
absolutely.
nerd.
Okay.
You had the Shermanator in there. He's a pretty big nerd. You know, so
Yeah,
I'm with you, Pete. I mean, I didn't have it on my list, but it's a good pick.
All right, now I'm going to pick one that is revolving around a nerd, and it's a tale as old as time. He wants to be popular, and we brought it up earlier. Can't buy me love.
Yep.
The whole
That was on
point is
my
he's
list.
a nerd, and he can't get out of that spot in life.
All right.
Over to you, Gifford.
Well, I'm going to go with one that came out the same year as Napoleon Dynamite, and it is my pick for this month. It is a true underdog story because of how many nerds that are in it, and that is Dodgeball.
Well, I didn't think about that, but yeah, I guess.
How many nerds do you have on that team?
Vince Vaughn isn't, but everybody else
Nope,
basically
but
is.
everybody else is a pretty big nerd in that movie.
I've got
Good
another
point.
one that we've
I
done
just
an
watched
episode
that
on.
the other day, by the way. It was great.
It's so good. I
I'm
haven't
excited.
watched it yet. Go
My
ahead.
next one we've done an episode on, and it's been brought up already on this one. I'm going with Better Off Dead.
Oh, I thought maybe I'd get that next.
Nope, you don't.
Good pick. Because you've
Thank
got
you.
the main nerd.
Oh,
but
for
even
sure.
You can call Lane a nerd too, because he's just such a
I think
pathetic
yeah,
person in there.
absolutely. That's who I mainly had in mind.
All right.
A classic confrontation. Never mind.
The next one I'm going to pick is going to see. It's like you got all these classics. Okay, I'll pick a classic. The Goonies.
Ah, shoot. I was going to grab that.
Yep, that was on my list.
Good pick. All
It is the
right.
next one on my list. So
Okay, so I'm going to move down my list just one spot. I'm going to go with The Social Network.
oh, interesting.
Pretty big nerd
Yeah, I didn't think of that one.
in that one. And, a few other ones as well. So,
All right, and my last pick, not what you might think of as a nerd movie. It has some cool guys in it, but definitely a couple of nerds, and they're certainly all outcasts. I'm going with The Breakfast Club.
good pick. Yep, had that on my list as
Oh,
well.
so it's me. All right. Boy, see, this is where you get where I got so many listed. It's tough to pick one. I picked some ultra popular ones. I'll just go with what's next on my list, though. One of the two best movies of the '80s, The Karate Kid.
Right.
Yeah?
Talk about an outcast trying to get out of his lot in life, Daniel.
I would go bigger spaz movie.
But that would have
yes.
been about you, Gif.
Yeah, well, yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to take one. 3 huge nerds in this movie, besides probably a few others as well. That's super bad.
Oh,
Yep,
yeah, I wondered.
that was on my list.
Pete,
It's on mine, too.
All right.
what else is on your list?
I have Back to the Future.
Oh, you did? See, I had that, too, but I was wondering if you guys, how far you'd stretch it there.
I didn't
Yep,
stretch it
and-
that far. I didn't put it on mine.
I'm surprised nobody picked it then.
Yeah, I had the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had argued before we started recording on TV shows. I did have Big Bang Theory as one of mine. And there was another one I had. Maybe I
Freaks and
crossed it off.
Geeks.
Freaks and
was
Geeks was the other
Freaks
one.
and
Yeah,
Geeks got to be on there.
was on mine. Although I hadn't seen all the episodes like you had, but that was my list.
Brad?
You go next, Gifford, because I got the longer list.
Okay. Well, a couple other movies I had on my list. Police Academy. You can pick just about any one of those.
Yeah, Police Academy.
Porky's. Scott Pilgrim versus the World. We talked beforehand about Romy and Michelle's class reunion. I also had the In-Betweeners.
Oh, I did too.
So I put the
That's
In-Betweeners.
true. I added it as a TV show, but yeah, it was also a movie. So
Yes, it was. And then as far as I threw in a couple TV shows, How I Met Your Mother. Ted's a huge geek. So is Marshall. Barney tries not to be, but he's
that.
Yeah. And then one of the biggest nerds ever in television history, and that is JD from Scrubs. And Elliot is a massive dork.
I was wondering if you'd consider them nerds, given your love for the show.
I love the show. So I'm gonna add JD in there where I can.
All right. So I could have picked one of my all-time favorite movies that we talked about, the way back. That centers on the nerd kid. Great coming-of-age movie. That's a lot of nerd movies are coming-of-age movies. Also, Little Miss Sunshine, same time period. Great movie. The other TV shows that I had listed were I brought up Atypical the other week. He's not really a nerd because he has autism, but he's an outcast. Everybody else would look at him as this different kid. Cobra Kai, since I picked the Karate Kid, and then I had the In-Betweeners. And then these are the movies I picked. So Mean Girls. I mean, that's mostly about Caddy. She's a nerd when she comes in. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Booksmart that Olivia Wilde directed. That's a total girls nerd movie. Deserves a big mention. Role Models with Paul Rudd and Sean William Scott. I mean, that's just total nerds. They're in charge of like cosplay and role playing stuff. It's a great movie.
Oh, I saw that. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, it's good. I Love You, Beth Cooper, which is a book I read first, and then it's all about a giant nerd trying to get a girl. I had Back to the Future, Superbad. I wondered if you might include Forrest Gump. I have that on my list.
Yeah.
But just, but he's always that outcast. Anyway, it was a stretch. Elf, I thought same thing. He's such a weirdo to everybody.
Yeah.
And then Dumb and Dumber, those guys are giant nerds. And
think of Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, and all the guys in There's Something About Mary are nerds too. So I thought
that would definitely qualify.
That's a great one.
Yeah,
I would give you that.
A lot of some of those we had talked about recently, so it's kind of why I put them at the bottom. But I mean, they'd be great choices here. I think we could do a whole nother second round of this, and we could come up with 3 more lists.
With Dumb and Dumber, I differentiate a little bit between just being stupid and being a nerd. Like nerds to me
there's a difference.
There's some intelligence.
But again, there's stupid nerds and there's not stupid nerds. There's different kinds of nerds.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Napoleon's probably rocking an Ivy League education after.
There's your Revenge of the Nerds guys that everybody thought of nerds first, but all these other people fit the nerd quality in some way too.
Yep.
Like we put Back to the Future, Marty McFly. He's a nerd, but he's like. He's not a nerd like that.
Right. Good stuff.
If we close with a big dance number, what band should we use?
I would go with Preacher Row.
Vote for Preacher Row.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, and we gave you a little clue. Next week, Dodgeball. It's going to be great.
Yes, it is.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
True underdog story.
Yep.
Bye. Peace out. Goodbye.
No one's here to comfort me. Sorry for what I have done. Sorry that your son is gone. 7 steps and it will be my last. And start jumping on my back. I turn it up to you. I'm scared but there's nothing I can do.